Imagine you're so rich that when you walk through a city and start handing out money, you accidentally destroy their economy. Not for a week, not for a month, for 12 years. That's not a hypothetical. That actually happened. And the man who did it, a West African king most people have never heard of, is still, by most estimates, the wealthiest human being who has ever lived. And here's the thing. The reason he matters to you, right now, today, has nothing to do with how much gold he had. It's because the way he used money reveals three wealth principles that still control modern economies. And most people spend their entire lives getting all three of them wrong. I'm going to show you all three. Okay, so picture this. It's a Thursday night. You've just paid rent, covered your phone bill, maybe put gas in the car. You open your banking app and you see that number, the one that sits in your stomach. Whatever's left until the next paycheck. And you do what most people do. You think, I need to make more money. That's the instinct. More income, more hours, a side hustle, a raise. And look, that's not wrong, but it's incomplete. Because there was a man who controlled one of the largest gold reserves in history. And even he understood that having money wasn't the point. What he understood, what took him from rich king to the richest person in recorded history, was something most modern financial advice completely ignores. And that's what this video is really about. His name was Mansa Musa. Mansa basically means King of Kings. He ruled the Mali Empire starting in 1312. A territory that covered most of modern-day West Africa. And his empire sat on top of something the entire medieval world was desperate for: gold. We're not talking about a little gold. At its peak, Mali controlled one of the largest gold supplies in the medieval world. The stuff that every kingdom from Cairo to London used to mint their currency, a massive chunk of it came from Mansa Musa's land. But here's where it gets interesting. He didn't just sit on it. He taxed the trade routes running through his territory. He invested in infrastructure. He brought in architects, scholars, engineers from across the Islamic world. He turned Timbuktu, a city most people today think of as a punchline for the middle of nowhere, into one of the most important intellectual centers on the planet. And honestly, that alone would make him remarkable. But then came 1324. And that's when the whole world found out who he was. He decided to make a pilgrimage to Mecca, a Hajj. Every Muslim who's able is supposed to make this journey at least once. Plenty of kings had done it before him. None of them did it like this. He traveled with 60,000 people, soldiers, courtiers, attendants, enslaved people dressed in silk, and 80 camels, each one carrying hundreds of pounds of gold dust. Let that sit for a second. 80 camels, hundreds of pounds each, of gold. And as this caravan moved through North Africa, Mansa Musa did something that seems generous on the surface, but was actually catastrophic. He gave gold away, everywhere, to every person he met, to every city he passed through, to mosques, to the poor, to officials, to merchants. When he reached Cairo, one of the most powerful cities in the medieval world, he handed out so much gold that he crashed the local economy. Gold became so common in Cairo that its value plummeted, and it didn't recover for over a decade. One man's generosity caused 12 years of inflation in a city he was just passing through. Okay, so here's the part that changes how you think about this whole story. Most people hear about Mansa Musa and they think, wow, that guy was rich, like it's a fun historical fact, a trivia answer. The richest man ever. Isn't that cool? But that misses the real lesson entirely. Because Mansa Musa didn't build his wealth by earning more. He built it by controlling what his wealth touched. And look, when he crashed Cairo's economy, he noticed. He saw the damage. And on his way back from Mecca, he did something that financial textbooks would later call a correction. He borrowed gold back from Cairo's moneylenders at interest, specifically to pull excess gold out of circulation and stabilize the market. A 14th century African king understood monetary policy well enough to engineer a market correction. That's not a story about being rich. That's a story about understanding how money actually works. And that distinction? It's the entire reason most people stay broke. So let's pull this apart, because inside Mansa Musa's story are three principles that apply directly to your bank account right now. Not theory, not motivation. Mechanics. Here's something nobody tells you when you're starting out. Hoarding money doesn't build wealth. Moving money, strategically, does. Mansa Musa didn't stack gold in a vault. He routed it into trade infrastructure, into education, into relationships with foreign powers that opened new markets. And here's the modern version of that. Every dollar you have is either sitting still or it's working. Your emergency fund? That sits still on purpose. That's fine. That's its job. But everything beyond that should be moving somewhere. Into an index fund. Into a skill that increases your earning power. Into a side project that compounds over time. Most people get this backwards. They try to save their way to wealth. But saving is defense. Circulation is offense. You need both, but only one of them actually builds anything. The question isn't, how much can I keep? It's, where can I put this so it comes back bigger? But the second code is the one that actually surprised me when I started researching this. And it's the reason Mansa Musa's empire generated wealth even while he was gone for 2 years on his pilgrimage. Mansa Musa left his empire for roughly 2 years. 2 years. And it didn't collapse. The trade routes kept running. The taxes kept flowing. The gold kept being mined and moved and traded. That's not luck. That's infrastructure. Most people build their financial life as a single point of failure. One job, one income stream, one skill that pays the bills. And that works until it doesn't. A layoff, an injury, an industry that shifts under your feet. Mansa Musa's wealth survived his absence because it wasn't dependent on his daily presence. It was built on systems. The modern translation: automate your investments. Build income that doesn't require your hourly attention, even if it starts tiny. A dividend portfolio, a digital product, a rental property. The goal is to create at least one source of money that moves while you sleep. You don't need 80 camels loaded with gold. You need one system that runs without you. Here's the part of Mansa Musa's story that almost nobody talks about in finance content. He didn't just build mosques and monuments. He built schools. He funded a university, Sankor, in Timbuktu, that attracted scholars from across the entire Islamic world. He invested in knowledge, and that knowledge attracted more talent, which attracted more trade, which generated more wealth, which funded more knowledge. A flywheel. And it's the same mechanic available to you right now. Every dollar you spend learning a high-value skill pays you back for decades. But I don't mean invest in yourself the way motivational posters mean it. I mean, look at what skills are commanding premium salaries in a field you want to enter, and acquire them deliberately, strategically. The way Mansa Musa recruited architects from Andalusia and scholars from Cairo. He didn't just throw gold at the world. He invested in the things that made his gold worth more. That's the code. Here's what's real. In 1375, almost 40 years after Mansa Musa died, Spanish cartographers drew a map of the known world. And right there, in the middle of West Africa, they drew a king on a throne holding a gold nugget. They didn't draw the kings of England. They didn't draw the emperors of China. They drew him. Because even decades later, the world couldn't stop talking about the man whose wealth reshaped economies he merely walked through. And that's the real code. Not how much you have, but what moves when you move. What keeps running when you stop. And what grows because you were smart enough to plant it. Most people spend their whole lives trying to fill a jar. The code was never about the jar.